Hello everyone and welcome to the PMI 2014 Global Congress here in Phoenix, Arizona. With me right now is Frank Salatis. He's been on the program several times. Hello Frank, welcome back.
Oh, I'm happy to be here again.
Yeah. So you'll be presenting about positive leadership in project management. I think it's still ahead of you, right? You haven't yet presented.
I haven't presented, it'll be tomorrow.
Okay. So this is not your first rodeo here. You are coming back to present at the Global Congress again and again. What's your motivation? Why do you come back so many times? What do you get out of it?
Well, just so you know, I've been doing these presentations at what used to be called the PMI Seminars and Symposiums before they changed it to the World Congress. And I did my first presentation in 1993, and I've done a presentation every year since then. So
okay, why? What makes it so interesting
now you get
for you?
Why?
Yeah.
So actually, number one is because I really enjoy it. I just absolutely find a thrill in doing a presentation. So that's one. Another reason is that in order to do a presentation and to do it well, you really have to study the materials. You have to learn new things. So I'd like to always present something a little bit different, something maybe a little out of the ordinary, to make it fun for me, enjoyable to the audience, but also educational. Thirdly is because I'm pretty passionate about these subjects anyway. I've been involved in PMI for a long time. So, what brings me back is to see people taking notes, smiling a little bit, and then coming up to me to talk to me about these things. And it just kind of builds my excitement to want to come back and do that again the next year.
Excellent. Now, you said you wanted to do something that's maybe a little bit out of the ordinary, and I think that the first sentence in the white paper on which your presentation is based does that. Let me read it out for everybody. The perception of leadership and what it means to be a great leader has changed significantly in the last few years. Many of those who were thought to be true and effective leaders have failed their organizations and their constituents in the pursuit of their own personal gain. It is essential for this trend to reverse. Can you develop that for us a little bit? Where does this come from?
Well, I guess most people, I think, I'm a U.S. citizen, and I kind of base a lot of it on the political scene and what's going on, the popularity of our congressmen and senators and so on, and their failure to meet the needs of the people, their low ratings and things like that. And I see that not only in that particular area, but also in business, that rather than try to succeed through other people and getting other people to succeed, that those people who seem to be getting into the spotlight as leadership, in many cases, are doing that for one reason, and that is so that they can stay in the spotlight. And I don't think that's leadership, okay? Well, leadership to me is you're not in the spotlight, but your team is. And I see this time and time again in a lot of organizations where I think people understand what they think leadership is, but it really is much, much deeper than most people actually believe it to be, okay? And it's more about things that are internal. And I use a term called authentic leadership, and that is that the leader is creating value. And the only way you can create value is to get everybody involved to go in the same direction so that we're creating value together. And I just do not see the kind of things that I would like to see in today's leadership.
Your presentation is titled Positive Leadership in Project Management. We'll get into the details in a little bit about what exactly it is, but can you summarize it for us in 20, 30 seconds?
Wow, okay.
Well, there's a challenge for you.
Yeah. First of all, I would say positive leadership means that that you approach any issue, whether it's a challenge or a setback, in a kind of a can-do attitude, okay? That we will find a way through this. That positive leadership means that you are connected with your people in such a way that they feel your confidence in them, that they are acknowledged on a regular basis, that they feel appreciated, that you as the project leader, okay, or the leader is actually creating an environment where, yes, there's so much more we can do. Let's work on it together. And that would be kind of what I think positive leadership is.
There are so many leadership books and trends out there. What makes positive leadership different?
Well, it's different in a couple of different ways. One is, first of all, I've done a lot of research on many of the very, very familiar names in writing books about leadership. You know, John C. Maxwell is an example. And through this collection of all this material that I've developed, plus the training programs that I've done, people that I've met, people that I've interviewed, people I've worked with, I have taken bits and pieces of, I'm going to say, the best of what I have found, and kind of condensed it down into almost like a leadership manual, where you're dealing with people, you're dealing with yourself, you're doing personal assessments of what you are doing as a leader, how effective you are. And it's very, very down to earth. So it's not an academic book. It's more of, these are the kinds of things that you should be practicing every day as a leader. And it's written from the front line. I'm involved in the leadership of an organization, of a team, and so on. And so it's really written in plain English, plain language about being a good, solid, positive leader, and the things that you should be practicing.
One thing you talk about in your presentation and in your paper is that there has to be a balance between the managerial leadership components of the project manager position. That's necessary. Tell us about that.
Well, I think most people know, anyone that's gone through any kind of managerial schools, classes, people who are in the project management field understand that there are certain managerial things that you're required to do, and those are the administrative items. We have to plan, we have to organize, we have to get the right people. Okay, we have to track things, we have to look at metrics. So that's the managerial side, processes and procedures. But the leadership side is really the motivational side, getting people to feel good about themselves, and making sure that we're celebrating the successes in such a way that people feel like, wow, what a great thing we've just accomplished. I want to do more. So I emphasize that the leadership side really is getting people to feel absolutely great about themselves, and that they have the confidence to deal with any particular setbacks. And so the true leader, besides being a good manager, also helps people to be motivated and also to be resilient.
There's one sentence in here that I like very much. It says, "It should be clearly understood that leaders do make mistakes. Accepting a leadership position does not mean one is infallible." I think this is very well put. Most people think, oh no, as a leader, you can't make any mistakes.
Well, I think that's one of the myths of leadership, is that they have all the answers. I've known quite a few people in leadership positions that didn't have the answers. The absolute, true, effective, and positive leader understands that I don't have all the answers, and that's why I have a staff. Okay, I heard this morning, and I've heard it a few times, that the really, really, truly effective leader surrounds himself or herself with people that are smarter than they are, okay, or better than things than they are, and they continuously look at all this knowledge. And when an issue comes up that they really don't know how to address, they have a cadre of experts that they can go to and ask for advice, and they show that sincere appreciation for that knowledge, and I think that's really critical.
Okay. So becoming an effective leader is definitely not something that happens overnight. How does one become a positive leader?
Well, the first thing I think of, okay, as a positive leader is you have to really know yourself, okay? Just what are your particular strengths? In the book that I wrote about it, Positive Leadership in Project Management, one of the things that I strongly suggest that the leader does is to conduct their own personal SWOT analysis, okay? The strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you have to understand what your capabilities are, what your true strengths are, and you have to focus on those. But then you also have to understand that there are other things that you may not be that great at that are still important, and we need to kind of find ways to build that up too. So to be a positive leader, you look at yourself first, and you have to ask yourself, do I have a good plan for me? I need my own personal plan. And then if I don't have my own plan, how can I actually lead other people? So if I understand where I'm going, I understand what my strengths are, and I have a personal plan to continue to develop myself, then I can use that information to help other people to grow also. Because the leader is part manager, part coach, part mentor, and basically a person who is trying to create new leaders.
How do you use positive leadership in your organization, in your work?
Well, I think that what I like to do is, number one, I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy the training and the consulting and working with people. I like to share things, and I guess I have a tendency to be extremely enthusiastic and passionate about it. And I think that message comes through. That I'm not saying things just for the sake of saying some words about it, but I'm telling you I believe this. It's coming from deep down inside that these are the things we have to do, and I express that through that enthusiasm. I smile and
I was just going to
people.
mention this because this is actually the first time in the presentation where your face suddenly you lit up and you started to smile and I can tell this is something that comes from within you. Yeah. What would you say? How does positive leadership help a project manager drive a project forward?
Well, this kind of goes back a little bit. I've learned over time, and someone said to me, because I had asked them a question about a particular project that was having some difficulty, and the person said, "Well, I'm just the project manager." And I said, "Well, what does that mean? You're just the project manager." It says, "What does that mean? There's something you can't do here?" Well, yeah, no, I can't do it because I don't have the authority. I'm just the person that's trying to get this stuff done. And I just thought about that, and I said, you can't just think of yourself as just the project manager. You have a job to do. You have a mission to do. You have to do it through other people. Find a way to do it. So you have to think in terms of, yeah, we had a setback. So how am I going to fix that? Where's the resiliency? And also, if you're that kind of a person who says to your team, "Well, folks, I'm just a project manager, and I can't get this done," what's that going to do to your team? So you are a project manager, but let's say that today, I think there is a tendency to take that term project manager, and we're trying to move it. And I think PMI is doing that to project leader. And I think that's the mindset you have to get in. I'm the leader. And if I'm the leader, I don't want the team to fail. What am I going to do to help them get over those challenges? And if I keep saying things like, "Well, I'm just the project manager," then I would say, well, no, you're not. You're not even a project manager, okay? And we need to find somebody else that's going to motivate that team.
What would you like to be the key message that people take out of your presentation tomorrow that will also be the key message for our listeners today?
Well, there's a lot of messages. The key message would be, number one, you have to have a certain amount of personal integrity. First of all, you have to kind of deliver, and you have to stay with it, okay? So if you're going to waver in your commitment, there's going to be a problem. So stay with it. Have confidence in yourself. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. We're going to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to do it. But I think the biggest message that I'm trying to get through in positive leadership, and I've heard this before, is that the true leader, the true positive leader, their main goal is to make other leaders, okay, to create other leaders, so they have this continuous following of people who are creating authentic value. And I think that's what it is. And my thought along that was inspired by a speech that was done back in New Orleans, I think it was 1995, when PMI had the seminar symposiums there. And this particular phrase, this quote of the speaker, has been with me ever since. And he said, as the closing of his session, he said, "When you leave this earth, will you leave a vacancy or a void?" And I have never forgotten that. And I said, okay, great, because a vacancy is easily filled. So what are you doing that is going to make an impression and create a void so that people are going to say, we have to do so much to fill this gap that has just been created? And we should all be thinking about that, So if you're going to leave a vacancy, you'll be forgotten shortly. But if you can leave that void, then people will have taken notice of the things that you have done, and they will truly appreciate that you did add value.
That is a wonderful thing to aspire to. Thank you very much, Frank, for your time. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.